Hey friends, Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. If you've spent any time on the channel over the years, you know that I don't have a good relationship with hammocks, specifically gathered end hammocks. Anytime that I have slept in one, it has been a less than ideal experience. I just have not got good sleep in a gathered end hammock, but I'm still intrigued by the concept and the idea of setting up between two trees, being elevated off the ground, and having that hammock experience. So as of late, I have been looking at bridge hammocks as an option, but something that I've had on my shelf for a couple of years now that I just haven't put much time or effort into is this guy here. This is the Haven tent. This is a lay flat floating hammock tent essentially that utilizes a sleeping pad as the critical point to provide structure, to make a flat lay platform for you to sleep on that is similar to how you would sleep on the ground, but it's elevated off the ground and gives you that hammock-like experience. So we're gonna dig into the Haven tent today. And as a disclosure, Haven did send this tent to me several years ago, in fact, but they have no say in what's talked about today. They are not sponsoring this video. No money was exchanged. All opinions and thoughts on this today are my own. So let's get it hung, talk about what's included and features and specs and just my initial impressions of this after having one night in the Haven tent, which we'll talk about here a little bit more in a minute. So we've got the full package here of the Haven tent. I'm going to undo the clips, set the sleeping pad aside, and in this package, you've got your sleeping pad, you have your tent body, your rain fly, spreader bars, as well as straps for the trees and the guy lines and such for you to get it all set up. So in this little bag, I've got my tree straps and some stakes in there. We're gonna set up around this tree. These are daisy chain style straps, which in my experience of previous hammocks, I haven't enjoyed having daisy chains. But something unique about the Haven tent is that the structural ridgeline of the design makes it so that you don't have to fiddle with how this lays all that much because it's basically a floating tent. So now I've got my tent body here and I've got some carabiners that I'm just gonna clip right onto the end loop here. We'll see how this stretches out across to the other side. Oh, it's gonna be tight. That is about as far apart as I would wanna go with that. Literally, can't go any further. So that's gonna be the initial setup of the tent. And in fact, what I like about this is the rain fly is integrated into this. It is removable. You could pitch it higher, have it completely separate, but that's something cool is I can set up the tent with the rain fly attached and keep everything dry in my sleeping area. So when I'm out in a rainy storm and such, I don't have to worry about all my stuff getting wet. So then included with the tent are two folding aluminum spreader bars. These are not load bearing in any way. These just open up the space inside of the tent and they've got little pockets that they go into. And so you're now able to inflate your sleeping pad a lot easier and open up the space of the tent. So now I'm gonna take my insulated sleeping pad from Haven, and this is an important thing to point out. This pad is a dimension of 24 inches wide by 78 inches long, and it's 4 inches thick. It is an insulated pad, which is critical because when you've got cold air going underneath you, you need that insulation from that cold air to protect you when you're inside of the tent. And this is very important to the structure of the tent because it provides the opportunity to create that flat lay. Okay, let's talk about some of the design aspects of the Haven tent here that make it do what it does to provide that flat lay experience. So you have a sleeping pad that utilizes horizontal baffles. That's important to being able to create that structure so that it doesn't taco in on itself from side to side. But then on the hammock body itself, you have these high strength pieces of webbing that follow an arc, kind of in a smiley face on the tent body here, that provides structure and strength to the tent, but it makes it so that when you get into it, you don't taco from this way, so it doesn't like fold in on itself. And you can see that there's an opposing arc on the bottom of the tent. So this makes it so that when you do lay in it and sit in it, it just goes flat, as opposed to collapsing in on itself. So you have several different factors here that all play into being able to create that flat platform, which is super nice. You have your bug net that's integrated. You have a structural ridge line, so it doesn't matter where you set this up, how far apart from the trees, how close together. Once you put your weight in it, this structural ridge line keeps everything the same. So I don't have to spend a lot of time fiddling with adjusting my ridge line and such to make it get a good lay. It is set to where it needs to be to make it do what it's supposed to do. Now keep in mind, my model of the Haven tent is an older model, so some of the things I talk about might be slightly different in the current production, but you have a full-length zipper for your bug net. It goes all the way around. And then your integrated rain fly is all seam taped. Your tent body is also all seam taped, which is super nice. And it just closes everything off. Now, I do have guy lines that are included with this, so I'll show you this here in a minute. I can guy this out and create some more ventilation, but I can really batten down the hatches, as they say, because here on the body of the tent, I have a toggle, and then on the rainfly, I've got this grommet that I'm able to push that toggle through and bring that rainfly right down against the tent body here so that I just close everything off. Now I've got some vents at the end of each side of the tent to provide some ventilation that way, but I can just pick and choose how I want to do this. I can close off one side to basically eliminate any wind that might be super cold on this one side, and I can guy out the other side a bit more to open it up and provide ventilation on that side, have a porch mode kind of thing, but block any kind of wind and such so that I'm not freezing through the tent that way. Or I can open it up all the way. I can remove the rainfly from this and I can suspend it between the trees, go a little bit higher. I could go naked without the rainfly. I could use another brand of rainfly if I want a different tarp. That's what I'm meaning. Rainfly, tarp, it's what it is. But then the other thing to note with the bug net itself is I can undo this little snap right here that closes off the zipper, and I can completely remove the bug net altogether. So if I don't have to worry about bugs, then I can reduce the weight of that and not have to worry about carrying that. But it is nice that I have the option to just take it off, put it back on with a really, really simple setup here to make it go back on super quick. So what I'll do is go ahead and lay down in the tent just so you can see what that flat lay is like. Kick my shoes off here and lay down. So you want to be centered in the tent here and just get your body kind of within the middle of the tent. And I enjoy this so much because I'm getting that hammock-like experience. So I'm swinging back and forth, rocking myself to sleep, enjoying that. I can close the bug net here. And I've just got my nice enclosed little space that is quite enjoyable. But it's nice to be in a hammock type experience, and regardless of what position I move around in, I'm laying flat, and it feels like the same experience that I would have from my ground tent. Am I sleeping on the ground and such? So I can get into a side sleep position, and it's nice. And it doesn't feel like it's gonna like flip on itself. It's very stable. Now I will say that 24 inches wide is not the most space that you can experience from a tent. So it does feel a little bit claustrophobic that way, but it is something that you get used to, and especially if you guy out the rainfly or the tarp into a porch mode with some trekking poles, then it is a very enjoyable experience. But to have everything closed off, protected from the bugs, you're not going to get bit from underneath on your butt because you've got the sleeping pad, and the pad itself is also plenty comfortable. I don't normally like horizontal baffle sleeping pads, but this one is quite nice. And I can sit up and kind of move around and such, and it's not too confining, but it is tighter than I think most people would like. So going with the XL version might be the better option in that case. But for me, 5'9", 165 pounds, pretty standard dude, it is a good, comfortable experience in the tent here. You've also got several pockets, so 3 pockets on each end for you to put your phone, your keys, other knick-knack things that you want inside of the tent with you, off of the pad here, which is nice, and just an easy way to organize the tent as well. Easy to put your boots. You could also hang your backpack inside of the tent here as well. So lots of cool options to organize and just make it a nice cozy place to hang out. Now, something pretty cool that Haven also offers as an option for additional insulation is a insulated pad cover. This is a zoned insulated pad cover that has synthetic insulation in it that's going to wrap around the sleeping pad here in the tent. So what this provides is some additional R value for you to just sleep down to colder temperatures. Now, the trip that I did in January this year with the Haven tent, I used this insulated pad and this insulated cover, and we were down to about 14 or 13 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. So pretty cold temperatures for being in a hammock like this, and it was nice and cozy. I had a 10-degree rated Zenbivy bed in there with me. But what's cool is the feet area of this insulated pad cover has less insulation. You've got the most insulation here in your torso and butt area, and then up around your neck and head is more than in the feet. So it's zoned with where the most pressure is. You're gonna have more insulation value to give you that better protection. Okay, so what I've got set up here now is the Zenbivy Light Bed, which I think is a really nice option for the bed that you would want to use with the Haven tent here. It's what I've slept in with it, and I find it pretty easy to get in and out. You don't have to mess with additional zippers and such. Once you get situated in here, it's quite cozy. And it's a nice size for the tent as well. So I have the 25-degree rated Zenbivy Light Bed, and in the large size. So it's the 25-inch size, and it's just a really good fit for this standard size Haven tent. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a very comfortable, enjoyable experience, because what I'm able to do is elevate my head a bit more with just raising the tree strap on the head end, and then with my pillow here on my bed, I am just so comfortable right now. The sleeping pad, there's something interesting about when you're elevated off the ground and it all working together, you don't feel the baffles as much as when you are down on the ground, because there's no pressure from the underside. And oh my gosh, this position right here, maybe I'll just take a little nap ski. But for real, this is so comfortable and just, I think, a really nice way to get up off of the ground and be in a hammock, be on uneven ground like I am right now, and still get that nice flat lay and be insulated, be super comfortable, and enjoy spending some time out in the forest. Now, one of the key things to talk about with this is the weight of this whole setup here. That's going to be the kicker for a lot of people on this whole setup. With the pad, all of the tent components and such, you come in at a weight at about 7 pounds, which this was not ever designed to be an ultralight focused backpacking shelter. Derek, who designed the Haven tent, wanted this to be focused on sleep first. He says all the time that sleep is what he's selling. And I think he's done a good job at creating that. Does it not fit within the ultralight community of backpackers? No, it probably doesn't, because you're carrying a pretty substantial amount of weight. But I do think that for short overnight to weekend backpacking trips where you're not going in a super long distance and covering miles is not your first priority, then absolutely I think carrying this in a backpack, which I plan to do this season, makes sense to just have a different type of sleeping experience than always being in a tent. And so, yeah, is 7 pounds kind of heavy? Yeah, it is. But it depends how you look at it, what your goals are, and what you're trying to accomplish. If getting really good sleep is what you want, then I think that this fits the bill. My experience so far in using and sleeping in this, mind you, it's limited, is really, really positive. So now I've got it set up in that porch mode with the tarp coming out with some trekking poles, super long guy lines to be able to guide out, and the tarp is nice and tight as well. So I'm gonna have that protection from the rain, from a light drizzle and such, but I'm opening things up. I can sit here, I can cook, I can just enjoy myself in camp a lot from this kind of setup right here and not feel as confined if I have everything buttoned up really tight. So if I get into my bag again, as if I'm going to sleep, then get myself nice and centered here. I'm able to rock back and forth, look out and enjoy the view, check out the mountains, the stars, and if for some reason it does start to really come down, get super windy and such, I can just pull my trekking pole and loosen up the guy line, and I can attach it to the toggle here without ever having to get out of the tent, which is super cool. You can get down and do that one as well, or just leave that one side. It's just a very modular, flexible, versatile option. But is the Haven tent perfect? No, it's not. The first downside for a lot of people is going to be the fact that it weighs 7 pounds for the whole kit. For me, I'm not really concerned about that with what this provides as an experience. Second is it may not be the most comfortable from a space standpoint. This is 24 inches wide, 78 inches long. I've already mentioned this, but it could be very confining for a lot of people. So getting the XL version would be the better option in that case, but that does add cost and additional weight to go with a larger tent. Is this the best size tarp for this? Maybe not. Maybe you want to just buy this with the tent itself and then use a larger, longer tarp for you to put over top and have a bit more coverage that way so that you can really open things up. That is an option. I think though that in a lot of cases this fits the bill for somebody like me who has not had good experiences with gathered end hammocks, wants to take this on camping trips out of the car, wants to take it on short backpacking trips and have a hammock-like experience, but be able to have that ground sleeping type experience where you get that flat lay and enjoy a good night of sleep because of the way that this is designed. I think that this is just a smart concept. It's well put together. It has everything that makes it a good, comfortable sleep experience and a backcountry experience. All right, so there you go. That is the standard size Haven tent, a floating hammock tent that is very versatile, modular, and provides a pretty unique sleeping experience in the backcountry. So let me know what you think down in the comments of the Haven tent, whether or not you would use it, and just your initial thoughts on this setup here as well after seeing what I've shared about the tent. Thanks for watching today, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Hope you have an awesome day. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later.